We're joined in this portion of our program on the Fan, Sports Radio 1019, and of course on the Odyssey app. I'm Bob Salter, and welcome to our program. We're into that time of the year when we get into our discussion with our guests from the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network. PurpleStride is coming up. Yep, PurpleStride, it's that time of the year. Two guests are joining us on our program today. Now, the first person I'm going to mention has spoken with us a number of times previously. I think, we were trying to count this up before we started the show today. This could be something like 10 years that you've been speaking. Todd Cohen is joining us on our program. First of all, Todd, it's nice to have you join us.
Thanks, Bob. As someone who's not an athlete, this is really my only chance to get on WFAN. So thank you for having us. I appreciate it.
And also joining us on our program is Hannah. And is your last name, is it pronounced Scelfo?
Scelfo.
Scelfo, okay. It's nice to have you join us on our program, Hannah.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Number of areas we're going to get into in this discussion. I guess like we usually do is we will start with a little bit of background on the topic of pancreatic cancer, and then get into talking about each of your experiences with this and with the family member, and also talking about PurpleStride, obviously, in the course of this discussion too. Now, Todd, when we've talked before, we've always gotten into the discussion at the start, trying to explain, first of all, what exactly pancreatic cancer is, because part of the reason for our discussion today is to try to promote some awareness of this topic. Pancreatic cancer, how do you explain what it is? And then I guess as part of that, when you're explaining what it is, do you have to explain where the pancreas is?
Sure. So, Bob, like you said, we've been doing this for 10 years. Not much has changed about this disease. Pancreatic cancer, it's really the world's toughest cancer. It has a survival rate of 11%. When my father was diagnosed and passed away 20 years ago, the survival rate was hovering around 5 or 6%. So it's almost doubled, but it's not much has changed about this disease. And one of the reasons why is because the pancreas is located deep in the stomach. It's in front of the spine. And many times when it is diagnosed, it's too late. The warning signs are there, but they're often very vague. Abdominal pain, back pain, unexplained weight loss, jaundice, loss of appetite, indigestion, changes in stool. These are things that come up typically for many people. For my father, he was jaundiced, and that was an immediate warning sign that he had to go to the doctor. He was initially misdiagnosed, and then eventually they found out it was pancreatic cancer, but I didn't know much about it. There wasn't much out there other than the fact I knew Michael Landon had it. And, I thought people can beat cancer, but the odds were stacked against him. When you see the results of this disease for many people, and there are some fortunate ones that do live with this disease. I knew something had to be done. So that's why I started volunteering for the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network.
And what has that been like for you?
It's really taken my negative energy and channeled it into something very positive. There's that saying that life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. So I'm making purple lemonade, I guess you can say. And I've met some really amazing people across the country that are all kind of galvanizing together and doing the same thing I'm doing. And the PurpleStride event that we're talking about on April 30th, you're going to see a sea of purple. Purple is pancreatic cancer's color, and everybody's there for a reason. And they're all there to beat this thing. We want to see an early detection method. We want to see a cure for this disease. We want to see a cure for all cancers. And I think we all kind of feel the same way about that.
The whole idea of awareness about the disease, how has that increased over the years?
I think a couple different ways. First of all, I think people are becoming more vocal about it. There's the saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Mm-hmm. We have an advocacy day later on this spring where people can reach out to their local representatives and members of Congress and say that something needs to be done. More money needs to be given to the National Institute of Health to kind of figure out an answer for this problem. And I think there's been more awareness in local communities as well. We do proclamations throughout the state of New Jersey. And I know New York does them as well. So I think there has been an increase of awareness, but we need, because we don't have many survivors, we need people like Hannah and myself to reach out and spread the word. And so the volunteers are so vitally important for this organization. And the key word is volunteers. We're not being paid. We're out there to kind of spread awareness for this terrible disease.
Now, as you mentioned, it's been 20 years since you lost your father. First of all, does that figure amaze you that it's been that long?
It's crazy. I can't put it into words that it's already 20 years.
Mhm.
You know, he was involved in sports. He was an umpire. He was a referee. He kept in shape. He did tennis regularly. I mean, don't get me wrong. There were days he would sit on the couch and eat a whole thing of cookies and cream ice cream, you know, and I would sit there in bewilderment. But for the most part, he really didn't have many medical problems. And then once pancreatic cancer came, and he was an anatomy and physiology professor at Union County College, so he knew what was going on. But he kept a very positive outlook on things. From the time he was diagnosed to when he passed, it was a year, and it was a crazy year because we heard good news, and then, you know, things turned south. But I can't. I mean, I've been volunteering with this organization since 2007, and we've been taking small steps. But, you know, I look at them as big leaps from where we were back when this all started. And one of the things I'm doing is not only for selfish reasons, I don't want this to happen to me, but I also don't want this to happen to other families, like Hannah's family or Hannah or people, you know, who will be fighting this disease in the future. I want to change the course for them, and I think it's so important.
Hannah, how much awareness of pancreatic cancer did you have before this struck your family?
I'm going to be honest. I was very misinformed about this diagnosis before it affected me and my family. I didn't really know anybody that had ever been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer except for Alex Trebek. I was out to dinner with my family and my dad took a sip of wine, and all of a sudden his face got really flushed and his eyes turned yellow. And after that, it was stage 4 pancreatic cancer, metastasized to the liver. I lost my father in December. He was diagnosed in August. So unfortunately, he only lived 4 months with the disease. And, you know, through desperation in doing research, I came across PanCAN and PurpleStride, and that's how I got involved. But I agree that more awareness needs to be spread because I had no idea what this disease is, how it affects families, you know, what their survival rate was, anything along those lines. So that's how I got involved.
Tell us about your father. What was he like?
My father was named Bobby. Such an amazing person, so kind-hearted. You know, nobody had a bad word to say about him. Hardworking, worked 7 days a week. Family man, very protective of me. And I was known as the daddy's girl. You know, I got engaged last year. I'm getting married next month. And he was so happy to see me be engaged and starting my life. And, you know, even through his sickness, he always kept, you know, a smile on. He always, you know, it was almost as if he was hiding his pain for the sake of the family. He cared about everybody else and how they were doing. And he was just such an amazing person. It really is such a shame.
Mm. And in handling, first of all, the diagnosis, I guess, how did your family handle that?
We were all in shock at first. like I said, like none of us had any information about what this was or what we were about to deal with. We didn't know where to go. We didn't know what our resources are. We started off with our gastro, who advised us to go to Sloan Kettering. So he was under the care of Sloan Kettering throughout, I guess, his process. As the disease progressed, he was hospitalized at Sloan. They were great. He underwent chemo at the Sloan site in Comac in Long Island. They were amazing, you know, so compassionate. The doctor really did try, but
Mhm.
once it hits stage 4, you know, the survival rate is very, very low. So we didn't really know how much time we were looking at, but it definitely wasn't 4 months.
Mm. And PanCAN, or Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, as a resource for you and for your family, how important was that?
It really was important. It provided a lot of great information. When they had recommended hospice services, we didn't know what hospice agency to go with, how to go along that process. It was all very new to my family and I.
Mhm.
And so we utilized the resource, I guess the hotline of PanCAN, and they were lovely, very compassionate, very informative, patient. And my family and I signed up for PurpleStride with the intention of walking with my father. We thought it would be something that we do together, and now it ends up that we're doing it in memoriam of him.
Hmm. Okay. Now, there's a lot of different thoughts that are going through my mind. One of them, I guess it's an important thing too. We'll do this a couple of different times in the course of this discussion. Some
Sure.
contact information. Todd, I guess we can turn to you on this for Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, because there's people listening to our discussion today who may have questions, want to look for other things that can be kind of a resource. Where would you advise them to turn?
So I would encourage them to go to pancan.org. There's tons of free resources out there. There's also a toll-free number on the website that you can reach out to get direct support. They have really important information regarding diet information, as well as clinical trials that could make all the difference. And there's clinical trials going on all over the country, and you might be a candidate if you are fighting this disease right now. And we also encourage you to come to our walk on April 30th, to come to PurpleStride. There'll be a lot of information there as well. New York City, and usually it's in April, their event. Our event is usually in November. Now we are doing everything at once. All events will be on Saturday, April 30th. So it's incredible to think there are 60 events going on all at once, all designed to beat pancreatic cancer. And so there are a lot of resources out there, and I encourage people to go out and log on and take a look.
So it's PanCAN, PanCAN.org. Now, having all those events on that one day, the 30th, which is basically next Saturday. You know, as you were saying that, I'm thinking logistically, what on earth is that like, pulling this off? It's got to be a very major effort to be able to pull all that together.
Bob, you're running our event, aren't you? You're coming, and you're going to be handling registration at both New York and you're cloning yourself. That's what I heard. I don't know if there's any truth to that. You're absolutely right. It's quite a daunting task. There are some support staff that will be there from national at some events, but really a lot of this relies on the volunteers, and that's why it's so important that people go to PurpleStride. You can also find out resources on Twitter. I know PanCAN NJ is one. PanCAN NYC is the New York City Twitter, if you want to check it out. And we also have Facebook pages too, that you can go and learn a lot of information. If you type in Pancreatic Cancer Action Network hyphen New Jersey affiliate or hyphen New York City affiliate, you can join our groups and be part of a very important conversation. But you're right. The amazing thing is, despite the fact that these events are all happening on the same day, we're really close to meeting our goal. At this point, we're very close to raising well over $400,000, and I think New York City's on track as well. So that's great to see. Millions of dollars they're going to be raised, and that's still not enough. We need everyone's support to help continue to keep this ball rolling and find a cure for this disease.
Okay, so people who are listening to our discussion today can be supportive of your efforts in that regard. And, people also like to know how the money is used. Okay. How does PanCAN put those dollars to use?
So there are many different ways. In addition to many of the free resources, and I neglected to mention the toll-free number as well. It's 1-877-2 PanCAN, PanCAN. So like I said, there's free personalized resources, including diet and nutrition information, specialists in your area. But we also do a lot to advance scientific research. There are many up and coming researchers that get grants throughout the year to do that important work of finding a cure, finding the early detection method, finding better ways for people who are impacted by this disease to live with their diagnosis. There's also money that goes to raise awareness through advocacy, through grassroots campaigns, through reaching out to Congress. There are a lot of different ways that PanCAN does some great things to share the knowledge of pancreatic cancer and really does a great job of advocating for patients.
We're talking on our program on the FAN, Sports Radio 1019, and on the Odyssey app. I'm Bob Salter, and talking with Todd Cohen. Todd has spoken with us previously in discussions talking about the work of the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network and about PurpleStride. Todd is a PanCAN volunteer, a PurpleStride New Jersey team captain, and a fundraiser. And we're also talking with Hannah Scelfo on our program. Hannah is a PurpleStride New York City team captain and a fundraiser. And they both joined us in this discussion. PurpleStride, as has been mentioned, is taking place on April 30th. It's going to be quite an event, or a series of events taking place that day. For people who are listening to our discussion today, how can you describe what PurpleStride is like?
So this is actually my first PurpleStride event, so I think Todd is better to speak on this. All I know is the information that's been provided to me on the PanCAN website, which is very informative.
Todd?
So it's tough to describe exactly what PurpleStride is, other than just describing it as a sea of purple, people that are there for the same mission, and that's to eradicate pancreatic cancer. It's more than just raising money. It's also coming together, finding a way to smile and be with your friends and family that are all designed to be there for a mission. But for me, after 2 years of virtual events, getting to do this in person, I think is amazing. And I think by doing this locally, we have a big impact nationally as well, because we're a part of something that's going on throughout the entire country. But if you are going on April 30th to the events, and I know the New Jersey one is at the Matt Cali Business Complex campus in Parsippany, New Jersey. And I think the New York City one, Hannah, if you want to state the location for that one, it's the same day. It'll be in the morning. I believe 8:30, 9 o'clock is when the kickoff is.
I believe it's on South Street near the financial district in New York City.
Okay. Now, interestingly enough, as you mentioned, the past 2 years, this has been a virtual undertaking. What was that like?
It was pretty crazy. The first one was like videos. It wasn't live. You missed that person-to-person contact. People were raising money not as much money. It just wasn't the same, and now I think with in person, PanCAN is doing everything to keep everybody safe and healthy. So people can they're recommended to wear masks at PurpleStride. It'll be outside, it'll be in the open, so people will be allowed to be socially distant. But it's been something I've been craving for the last 2.5 years. And our last event was 2019, and I think the 2020 New York City event was right after the coronavirus kind of came out. So they had to do a last second thing and they went virtual. So for both New York City and New Jersey, this is a real positive thing in many ways.
What kind of feelings, what kind of emotion do you feel, Hannah, heading into this? I mean, this is your first time doing this, obviously. What kind of thoughts are going through your mind here as you're coming up to the event?
I feel like it's a pile of mixed emotions. I mean, on one hand, I'm sad that my dad can't be there with me to go through this event, but I feel hopeful that the results of this walk will be to spread awareness and to make change and hopefully save other families in the future. And that was kind of how I was feeling after my dad had passed, that I felt like my mission was now to spread awareness and make sure that nobody has to feel what I'm feeling, and do everything that we can to beat this terrible, terrible disease.
And Todd, atmosphere-wise, when this has been done in person, what's it like as the day starts for PurpleStride?
So I'm usually on the stage or near the stage, and when you look out and just see a sea of purple, and you think about why you're there, and I think about my father. In the past 20 years, I've seen so many volunteers come and lose their battles with this disease. So I think back to all the lives that have been taken from due to pancreatic cancer. The one person that comes to me is Wendy Kyle, who was this real short woman that was just full of energy. She used to come to our meetings. And one of the things she said to me, hey, I know Mike Chernoff, and put me in touch with Mike, and I'm sorry, Mark, Mike's father. And he, reached out to us and built this relationship with WFAN. It's those people that you meet along the way that we have a saying by our founder, connect the dots, how everything gets put together, by making relationships. And you think about all those people that have tried to fight this disease along the way, and you want to continue their mission. And that's one of the reasons why I've been doing this for so long. There have been times when I've thought about, taking a step back, and it's hard to do because it's so important to beat this disease. And, I commend Hannah and I'm sorry about your loss of your dad, but it's so important that we carry that purple torch and continue, whether it's volunteering, whether it's raising money, whether it's just coming to the event and being part of this. Every little bit helps in eventually finding a cure to this disease.
Can you remember your very first PurpleStride?
I can. And it was, I think it was in 2012. We probably had 600 people there. We didn't raise a lot of money. There were some points we didn't even know what we were doing. But it was a nice event. It was we had like the mayor of the town there. It wasn't anything grand. And now you look at how the event has turned into 3 times the event, 3 or 4 times the event. We're expecting over 2,000 people there. We're hoping to raise close to $500,000. That number is mind-boggling. $500,000 for pancreatic cancer research to help people that are fighting this disease or will fight this disease. It's a small part, but it's, you multiply that by 10 or 12 for all the events that we've done, and it's a lot of money. I hoping it's going to find the answer for this, for what the researchers are trying to do to try to find an answer for pancreatic cancer.
Mm. And this whole idea of research, where is that, I guess, leading now?
So when you think about when my father was diagnosed, there were only a handful of researchers who were focused on pancreatic cancer. A lot of research was being done for like breast cancer and other diseases, but not much was done for pancreatic cancer. Now you're seeing hundreds of researchers out there, a lot of young researchers, a lot of energetic people that have been affected by this disease. I mean, you're looking at a disease that nationally 62,000 Americans are going to be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer this year. Nearly 3,000 New Yorkers are going to die from pancreatic cancer. And, about 1,000, a little more than 1,000 from New Jersey are going to die from this disease. It's a growing statistic. And I think as more families, as more people are aware of this disease, as we're getting more researchers involved, I think you're going to see strides done. And that's one of the reasons why it is PurpleStride, because of the great work that a lot of doctors and scientists are doing to fight this disease.
What kind of emotion comes over you, by the way, when you are at PurpleStride and you look out and see that sea of purple?
It's a mix, kind of like what Hannah said. It's almost like bittersweet. I don't want to be there. If I could bring my father back, I wouldn't be part of this organization, despite all the fact I've made some great friends and made some great relationships. I'm happy that we're bringing all these people to Parsippany. But it's sad because you see a lot of the survivors that are there and you're hoping they're going to be there for the next one. And there's so many people that are gone, and, and their families are the ones fighting. I can think of, there was a gentleman from Essex County who came to a couple of our meetings. He had just been diagnosed, and, you think about his family. He has a wife and 2 kids. They were very young at the time, and now they are still involved, and they're one of our top fundraisers. And I think that's so important, that people continue to be involved. Like Hannah, like, you don't want to see her be involved this year, and then, next year everything starts to taper off. It's so important that everybody continue to play a part, and I think every little piece makes it that final puzzle. I think is so important.
And question for each of you: this idea of being a team captain, what does that mean to you? What's that like?
For me, it was more about leading people into participating and spreading, educating really about why I'm doing PurpleStride, what it means to me, what it means to my family, why you should participate, why you should donate. And I feel like my role as team captain was mostly to spread the information, to educate, to, promote people participating. And I will say, I have like 16 people participating on my team as of right now. So I think I did okay for my first PurpleStride.
Good for you. And what's your team name, by the way?
It's Team Bobby Scelfo, which is my father's name. His name was Robert, but he went by Bobby.
Okay. And being a team captain, what does it mean for you, Todd?
I think it's similar. Hannah, that's fantastic. 16
Thank
people.
you.
I commend you on that. For me, it's more fundraising, although, I do have some family members that will be there in attendance. I think it's good to be that point of contact, that leader, and, someone that can bring people to this event. We do have some people who bring teams of hundreds of people. And I think it's amazing to see. And I think one important part of this event is when you see these teams gather together and take these group pictures, and they're all wearing the same shirt, and they're all running in this 5K, and, they've got smiles on their faces because they know they're doing something good. And I think that's something that's missing. As someone that works in a school, I always teach my kids, try to do something positive for everybody one day. And I think on this day, on April 30th, everybody's doing something positive. Like that's their mitzvah, as they say in the Jewish faith. That's their good deed. And, that's kind of how I look at it. But that good deed, it has to be continued every year. It has to be continued every day. And, I think that'll help change the course of this disease.
You mentioned earlier in this discussion the fact that there's an event that takes place a little bit later this spring, Advocacy Day. What's that like?
So when we did it in person, it was great to directly come in contact with the people that we voted for in Congress, and ask them to do something about pancreatic cancer. I can think back to about 7 or 8 years ago when we tried to get the pancreatic cancer, it was a Recalcitrant Cancer Act, which basically asked the National Institute of Health, that's one of the federal arms in terms of doling out money for cancer and different diseases for research, that something more needed to be done. And basically a framework needed to be created to fight pancreatic cancer, along with some other diseases as well. We got that passed. And we did that by getting in touch with senators and congressmen, and to meet them directly on Capitol Hill and walk around and see other people wearing purple, just really felt empowered and made me feel great. And even if you can't be there, there is a call-in where you can reach out to your Congress people directly and basically share why pancreatic cancer research is so vitally important and why more needs to be done to fight this insidious disease.
I've asked you this question before because of my naturally skeptical side, so I'll ask it again. Do they listen?
They do. I think it's a bipartisan issue. Cancer affects Republicans, it affects Democrats, it affects both sides, even the people that are more conservative and don't necessarily want to spend money. We've gotten support from both sides of the aisle. And that's amazing to say in these times, right? Where, you don't always see that, but everybody's affected by cancer. My father had it, my great aunt had it. There's genetic factors that are involved. There are other high risk factors. So, this is something that really touches everybody. And, we're hoping to see that continue going forward.
Now, we've talked about that last point before, and I guess this is a question for both of you. And that is in this area of, you have concerns about what, for lack of a better term, could be termed a genetic predisposition to pancreatic cancer.
Personally, when my father was diagnosed and we had our first appointment at Sloan Kettering, my father was offered to participate in clinical trials. Unfortunately, he became exempt because he had a rare type of neuroendocrine tumor, so he was unable to participate. But the oncologist had already taken tissue from the at the biopsy, so they did do genetic testing, and they told us that there was no reason for my brother and I to be concerned. I don't know genetically what it's like for other people, or if it runs higher in different types of tumors, whether it's neuroendocrine or adenocarcinoma. But I know from personal experience that they did do genetic testing on my father's tumor and said that there was no reason for me to be concerned. So I'm thankful for that.
Todd?
There are several different risk factors. Same thing for me. Genetic testing didn't really show a link between myself and pancreatic cancer. I know my brother's had it done as well. But there is evidence that there are certain risk factors for people to possibly get pancreatic cancer. Age is one of them, smoking, being overweight, a family history of pancreatic cancer, also pancreatitis, if you've had that in the past, and diabetes. They all may increase your risk. So really taking care of yourself is so vitally important for this disease. But I can't say there's a pill to take. There's, I'm not going to say eat more broccoli. Like there's nothing definitively out there. Just making sure you take care of yourself and go for routine checkups. And if you do have any of those alarming factors that we talked about before, go to your local doctor and ask your physician, could this be pancreatic cancer? Just to get checked.
Okay, excellent point to go over those symptoms that you mentioned earlier, because I think these are important things for people to know. And I'd like to repeat the contact information for PanCAN. But let's start first with those things we should be on the lookout for.
So primarily the symptoms, like I said, they're often very vague. They do include abdominal or mid-back pain, unexplained weight loss, jaundice, and jaundice is the yellowing of the eyes. That was, for my father, that's what led to the thought about the disease metastasizing to his liver. The loss of appetite, indigestion, changes in stool, and new onset diabetes. Obviously, the pancreas, one of the things that the pancreas does is it does digest enzymes, but it also regulates blood sugar levels. So if you're recently receiving a diabetes diagnosis, just reach out to your doctor about that and just have yourself checked.
Most interesting discussion with our guests talking with us about the work of the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, PanCAN, PanCAN.org, the website. What's the phone number you mentioned before, Todd?
It's 1-877-2-PanCAN.
877-2-PanCAN or PanCAN.org. You can get information on PurpleStride, which is coming up on Saturday, the 30th, both in New York City and in New Jersey. And there's a lot of information on PanCAN.org about pancreatic cancer. And our discussion today designed to promote some awareness, not only about PurpleStride, but also about the topic of pancreatic cancer. Thank you both for sharing the information that you have with us. Let's hope for a very successful day for PurpleStride on April 30th. Always wonderful to have a discussion like this. Thank you both.
Bob, I just want to throw out one more website.
Please.
If you do want to register for PurpleStride, you can go to purplestride.org and you can register for either the New York City one, which is going to be at the Seaport District, or the New Jersey one, which will be at the Mack-Cali Business Campus in Parsippany, New Jersey. Registration's free, and anyone who fundraises at least $50 will receive a PurpleStride t-shirt. So that's purplestride.org. And Bob, as someone who interviewed Babe Ruth's father, it's an honor to be on here with you again. You can never retire. Don't pull a Bob Coleman. Don't retire, because we need you every year for this event.
Thank you very much. And I'll be setting my alarm early for the 30th, since I've got to be in two different places basically at the same time for those PurpleStride events. Thank you very much, both Todd and Hannah. Wonderful discussion.
Thank
you. And that was Ed Coleman, by the way. So sorry about that. But thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.